finished a tape if you care to go. I gave the background on it. That's all I can do again. And what I was saying when this went off, you have to have background to know where I'm leading. This was Hustler, April of '84, and Larry Flynn endorsed me, and he had helped me in a campaign to replace Larry McDonald, Congressman, doctor, and he says, here I know who's responsible for his shooting March the 6th in Georgia. I wrote about mind control and programming. It was a medical malpractice book. It's a point I'm making. I lived at Moonraker Apartments, which at the time had been owned by Penthouse Magazine, and at the time I lived there I lived there for a year till my lease was up, 77 to 78. No, 78 to 79, excuse me. And it was owned at that time by the Mormon Church out of Utah. Now then, I'm going to show just a page here out of what they did to me. They've used the agencies. It's who I am. I'm Margaret Ann Windsor. I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in '41 and brought to Lawrence County, Alabama, which is Moulton, Alabama, and given the name of a twin, Peggy Ann Dempsey, and I married a Childers. And I still have to use that name unless I am given my name back. Both twins, Peggy and Dempsey and Carl Preston Dempsey, were dead. They were killed by Lina, their mother. They were born out of wedlock, and that was a pigsty. It was such a hellhole you can't even describe it. And there were 8 children, and I grew up being told that Lina was my mother of that clan, if you want to call it, and I could name them. They're all dead now except one sister, and I'm not going to mention her name on here, but all of these sisters and one brother, Matthew Dempsey, James Matthew, by the way, he was in the U.S. Army, and they all knew all this, and they were sworn to secrecy by their mother. Well, she would have been the grandmother of the twins, and I grew up having to call her grandmother because I was told I was kidnapped, and I told this was my name. Until 1983, I found out after being flown out to Larry Flynt's, and it was the British that told me, and Germans. All right, some of my German friends. Some of the Windsors helped kidnap me, and I put that on other tapes way back, and the one just prior. I said it's a good job if you can get it, and this is Elizabeth, my God, who's committed crimes that are of such magnitude, and look at, she's wearing and using my money. They gave away Great Britain. They allowed the United States to put its, her dad and she did sign illegal treaties that allowed the United States to put its bases all over Great Britain and use Great Britain as a launching pad to control the world. So Great Britain's a hostage just as I am. I've never been anything but, and I don't know where my sons are. Now then, I did want to say this, though. I wrote about mind control murders, and there's mind control murders that were done deliberately in patterns. After I had the antifreeze put in me April the 1st, which was such a hideous thing, I had sued Victor Gonzalez, who was a doctor there in Atlanta. I believe he's still in practice now. I wrote about him in the book, too, by the way, and Larry McDonald, congressman, and this is when so much more was done to me, and I thought it was because of the book, and I know now, well, it's not just the book, it's who I am and my kidnapping, and I found that out in '83. But the Gonzalez name appears now. This is programming people, and how do you prove it? It's an invisible crime. But look what's going on, the man that just jumped the fence at the White House is out of text, that, you know, they're trying to blame the Secret Service for lack of security or something. It's timing that makes it fits in the pattern, and they're under mind control, and it's synchronicity. you have to also know what happened in Cobb County about, I believe it's about November, last of October maybe, of 82, with the Secret Service, Phil Cox and Tom McCall down there. And at the Cobb County, I guess it was the police department, and I was taken in a back room, and they had me, but you have to know what was allowed to be done to me and then allowed later. But as far as being nice to me, the two agents came in, and they were nice enough, and I went back into, this is before I found out about being Margaret Ann Windsor and Queen Victoria II, heir to the British Crown, and about my kidnapping. But they took me back, and they said to a room, and actually I had gone there to the police department and walked because of the antifreeze and that'd been put on April the 1st of 80, and all the illegal things that were done to me. And I was actually set out on the side of the road, my apartment taken, my kids, everything. And I had gone there to try to get my divorce from my husband, John Guy Childers. At least I thought that was his name. Enforced so that I could have some money and get off the street. Just, I was begging for just a bus ticket because my car was taken from me, a city bus passes to try to find a job in the condition I'm in. And believe me, there's another Gonzalez that's a doctor. I think she's in cancer research, and she just laced her fellow boyfriend as a triangle his coffee with antifreeze. Believe me, you do not want to have antifreeze put in you. It's one of the most horrible things, and I should have died. And that's just one thing. That was April the 1st of 80 they did that to me after the letter from the FBI. Now then, how do you keep all this together? I walked in, and when I moved into Laurelwood, May the 8th of 79 apartments. I got the letter from the FBI, and then on April the 1st of 80, I was still living in Laurelwood, and antifreeze was put in me. But I went to Forrest Sawyer, who later became, he was with CBS, I believe. He later became a nighttime anchor with a couple of CBS and maybe NBC. It was after his involvement with me down there in 1983 during the political campaign to replace Larry McDonald when I was flown out to Larry Flint's. I remember the first time when I went in there, a little after May of 79, and he said, he took me in and he said, tell me what you want to tell me in 5 minutes or less. Well, it was impossible then, and it's even more impossible now. But I want to show how they've defamed me. When I came up here to Roanoke, October of 86, I had no clothes, no money, no nothing. I'd been walking on the side of the road made to look like a bum, a nut, called every name in the book, and really, and even carrying the stuff on me I have, I was afraid to show it to anybody because of the reaction, well, you're the Queen of England, ha ha. It didn't matter. It was a joke to the Americans. But anyway, I went to the Appalachian Trail, and this is going to go off again. This is Eric Smith. He was a ranger, and this is where some of the patterns, and you have to have the rest of them. He gave it to me deliberately on March the 6th. It was '04, but March 6th is when Larry Flint was shot. And the letter from the FBI came to me June the 23rd, which is the day of my father, King Edward VIII, his birthday. Of course, they gave it to me in 79. But this is where I'm residing in the National Forest. They actually booked me, put me in federal court. You can't believe what all they've done to me. I was up there freezing, everybody knowing it, just trying to live, and they're afraid of it. They were told not to help me, and they didn't. In fact, it's been the other way around. But I wanted, if this doesn't go off, there was one day I had walked so much back then, and my toenails off, and this was in the summer, and I had gone to a Dr. Mark Weissman. I didn't have money, and he was a foot doctor, and my toes were infected. He pulled them off. He shocked me when he just jerked them off, and I've got